All right, recording and welcome back, everyone, to this episode of our Triangle Splash podcast. As you noticed, it's only me and Brian today because Turbo is out, excused for personal reasons. But no problem, we'll still kick it up with our two fresh topics for today. Let's follow up with the trade deadline that happened last week. A lot of things happened over the weekend, and now that teams are starting to settle in, let's talk about how some fantasy players may be excelling or maybe not excelling post trade deadlines, or maybe even some signings of players that got bought out into their new teams. And let's discuss, how these guys are going to do.
Yeah. So first topic, one of us is gonna. So basically, one player that's gonna excel, and one player is gonna struggle after the trade deadline follows. So either gonna be through a trade or a buyout and a signing. So the first player I wanted to discuss that I think is really gonna struggle after the this buyout period is none other than from the Brooklyn Nets, LaMarcus Aldridge. So he's going to a team basically that's super stacked already, and obviously playing alongside with Kyrie, James Harden, and eventually KD. He's basically playing with three other ball dominant players. So unlike other big men they have on the roster, like Nicholas Claxton and DeAndre Jordan, LaMarcus Aldridge is not a rim runner. He's not a defensive specialist. So, from that point of view, I see that he'll have a very tough time getting playing time or even getting touches, even when he's playing. Because playing with ball dominant players like Harden and Kyrie, you need to be able to play well on the pick and roll, and be able to play good defense. So unless he plays second unit minutes with Blake Griffin, but he's still even playing second unit minutes with Blake, and he'll still play with either Kyrie, James, and KD. So with all the talent with the Nets, I have a really hard time seeing him having any fantasy impact or even real life impact in general.
Yeah, it's tough because like he's old. Maybe he doesn't even fit the style. I could see him like coming off the bench and like just being a good pick and popper, set a screen, and then Harden or Kyrie will hit him with the pop. But he won't be like uh LaMarcus Aldridge all-star like he was in the Spurs. So the impact definitely won't be as big. And the unfortunate part is that he'll actually take away the impact of other players because he's gonna eat their minutes.
Yeah, because even if they do pick and pop, even Blake Griffin can be a pick and pop guy now, right? So I think with the Nets being so deep and him not being, could be considered even like a defensive liability. So in that point of view, that I don't see Coach Nash using him in a lot of situations. So who do you have as one of the players that could struggle after this trade deadline follow-up?
So I got two, just because these two players are in a kind of similar position and they're going to be in the same city. So I have players from the Los Angeles Lakers and Los Angeles Clippers. So Andre Drummond is already signed with the Lakers, sorry, and rumor is that Demarcus Cousins is going to sign with the Clippers. And these two are another kind of like older kind of big men who I don't think are like core pieces to the main roster. They're more of just like, oh, we need a big man. You have some skill. Let's sign you. And then we can get like 20 minutes out of you, that's awesome. Because prior to his buyout, Andre Drummond was averaging 17.5 points, 13.5 rebounds. Those for sure are not going to stick just because back in Cleveland, he was a focal point. I think depending on how Anthony Davis and Marc Gasol come back for the Lakers, his role will waver, but he's definitely not the focal point. And DeMarcus Cousins wasn't doing as well. 9.6 points, 7.6 rebounds. Same idea. Kawhi, Paul George, they're definitely the guys in Clippers. And when it comes down to crunch time, down the stretch. I don't even know if Andre Drummond or Demarcus Cousins will even play. So they're definitely interesting players to watch. I don't even know if they're worth streaming at this point, especially for 12 team. But maybe if you're in a deeper league and you like really need some guys, these guys could provide like big minutes, especially because for the Lakers and the Clippers, they're missing a lot of big guys. So these guys are actually in a good spot right now to get minutes.
Well, for one of these players, I couldn't disagree more with you. Then that's gonna be actually this player was the player I was gonna mention that I'll see that will excel with their new team is Andre Drummond with the LA Lakers. I have a couple of reasons for this mindset or why I think this is the case is, first of all, the Lakers are really thin in the front court. They only have currently Marc Gasol, Montrezl Harrell, and they recently did not sign Damian Jones to a second 10-day contract. So I think Drummond as a old 27-year-old, he is an underrated defender. He can grab a lot of rebounds. He can be more of a shot blocker than Gasol or Montrezl Harrell. And I think he will benefit from a Lakers team that plays really strong team defense. He has played on previously really bad teams like the Cavs, like the Pistons. So, and also the fact that now he might get more opportunities and more minutes, like you said, with LeBron being with AD being out. But AD has known to be on record to say that he does not like to play the five. He likes to play the four. So having a paint present to protect the rim, a rim protector like Drummond, really will benefit AD. So let's see. I mean, we have different perspectives and let's see who's right in terms of how Drummond's season plays out.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, it's funny that you mentioned like these qualities that Andre Drummond have and bring are kind of similar to the Lakers' big man last year, Dwight Howard. And ironically, when the Rockets went small against the Lakers in the playoffs, the Lakers went big, and they were able to defend with their length, and ultimately that kind of build went all the way to the finals and won the championship. So it definitely is very versatile, and hopefully Andre Drummond will be like a good defensive anchor for the team.
Yeah, I think one thing that's really underrated for the Lakers and their championship win last year was they played a lot of really well team defense. So with AD, with LeBron, they have a lot of like length and athleticism, and with last year they had Howard and even McGee, right? So yeah, it'll be interesting. I think he'll definitely be a great asset for the Lakers.
And while we're still on the topic of trades and buyouts, there's actually a player that I really want to nominate for. I think he'll do really well after the post trade. Is Hamidou Diallo of the Detroit Pistons. So he was actually on a big rise, and we talked about him on our waiver wire show a few weeks back when he was doing really well in the Thunder. And it sounds like Detroit Pistons, they really value the future and the value that he brings. So I think he's already bumping out Josh Jackson's minutes. Delon Wright just came out. So he's going to be like a strong player off the bench. We'll see if he moves into the starting lineup. But before he moved to Detroit, he was already playing 23 minutes and around 12 points, 5 rebounds. I could see that definitely sticking. So he's actually a good player to look out for. And I think he'll do well in the rest of the season and maybe even moving on to next year.
Just for the fact that I have no idea or haven't researched this player at all, and the fact he's a former Thunder player, I will totally believe in your point of view and definitely keep an eye on him.